It's playoff time in Texas. Hello, everybody. Terry Bennett here on the Rock Eagle Football Show, brought to you by Lazy S Hacienda and Tommy Hayes Photography, right here on S2S Sports, part of L4 Media. As the Eagles finish the year 9-1, second in 3-4A Division II play, and that means they're going to be taking on Godley this Friday night. You know, Godley's a pretty solid team. You know, you're going to look at their record, and they're 6-4. But when you go look at their losses, their quality losses, they lose to Alvarado, a very good Division I team. Same with Stephenville. And then in district, they lose by 10 to Glen Rose and by 4 to Benbrook, the two teams that finished ahead of them. So this is a Bulldog team that a Wildcat team that has some pretty good talent, especially their quarterback, Wyatt Burke. Man, it feels like Brock this year has played so many big quarterbacks, not just big time, but I mean size-wise. Of course, Grant Goodwin on sideline to sideline. We like to joke about the Aubrey quarterback being 6'12", but he is 6'5". Wyatt Burke is 6'3". Ty Thompson, the quarterback for Graham, is pretty tall. The Decatur quarterback was pretty tall. So it's just, again, one of those things about when you're moving up into class, things are a little different. And Coach and I have talked about that before we start recording, just how every team in 4A Division II seems to be bigger, have a bigger line, and have bigger quarterbacks. Want to thank our sponsors, including Tommy Hayes. You can check out Tommy Hayes Photography online. Just go to TommyHayesPhotography.com or Tommy_Hayes_photography on Instagram. He does the best action shots that you can. And then, of course, Lazy S Hacienda, one of the best, newest, brightest venues for weddings, for elopement weddings. That's a big thing now. For parties, you know, it's the end of the year. You might want to have a business party, a company party. You want to have a Super Bowl party, anything like that. Lazy S Hacienda will take care of you, and they do it by being sustainable. That means everything they do, their carbon footprint, they try their best to keep it at a minimum. And I love that about them. You can do everything fancy and still be cognizant of the environment. And that's what they do. You can find them online at lazyshacienda.com. All right, we're going to take a break. When we come back, it's the head coach of the Rock Eagles, Coach Billy Mathis, right here on the Rock Eagle Football Show. Do you have a kid that plays sports? Are you yourself a weekend warrior? Then I'm going to tell you something. Check out NeuroGuardPlus.com. That's NEURO guardplus.com. It's a mouthpiece that can not only help with concussions, but can dramatically affect the way you perform. And the mission of NeuroGuard is to, of course, reduce the risk of suffering a concussion when participating in any contact sport, military, anything that you're doing physical that you could take a blow to the head. You might want to put in a NeuroGuard mouth guard. And as I said, it not only helps eliminate concussions, it helps you perform better by simply aligning your jaw properly. And that sounds like such a simple thing, but it is so important because it allows oxygen to get to your brain. And when you get oxygen to the brain, you don't have that fog of sports or that fog of war where you get confused. And if you've ever played football, you know that's a sport where that can happen. Especially, man, you're in there in the trenches and you take a shot to the side and all of a sudden things are spinning. This mouth guard will help you keep focus by, again, simply keeping oxygen going to your brain 100%. Again, check them out, NeuroGuardPlus.com. And if you play sports, if you have a kid that plays sport, if you do something physical, one of the things that Dr. Hutchinson, the creator of this, was talking about was some people will use it when they're doing yard work and when they're mowing and things like that, where they're being physically active because they know it helps align their jaw and it keeps oxygen going to the brain, which also helps your lungs, by the way, when you can have full breath every time as you're performing. So again, check them out, NeuroGuardPlus.com.
Hi, I'm Josh Bell with the Miami Marlins. I wear NeuroGuard to help with strength and coordination when I'm in the weight room and help with balance when I'm on the baseball.
Terry Bennett back here on the Brock Eagle Football Show, now joined by the head coach of the Eagles, Coach Billy Mathis. And Coach, before we start talking playoffs, let's finish off the last season or last game. Y'all beat Bridgeport 56-7. What were your thoughts on that game?
Man, I thought it was we went out there and did what we should have done. We executed well on offense and defense. You know, that was the game after the loss to Graham. And I was very excited the way our boys responded. Right? We go into Graham undefeated, and, man, we go over there and they just beat the brakes off of us in all facets of the game. And I didn't do a good enough job of getting us prepared and ready to go out there and win that game. And, you know, we came back in that Saturday morning, watched film, went over everything, said, hey, this is what we've got to do. And there was a lot of stuff that they did to us, that stuff that we did to ourselves that hurt us, you know, and it's kind of a reset. So, all right, boys, we're not invincible, right? We can be beat if we don't bring our best. What do we need to do, right? And me and the coaches sat down. We went through all our stuff. Said, hey, let's go back. You know, it's not the end of the world. You know, the sun rose, even though it didn't feel like it was going to. But we came back, had a good week of practice. And, you know, that's what you got to do. You can't be overwhelmed by, you know, a loss. It's tough to go undefeated. I mean, look at Graham. I mean, Springtown beat them. And, you know, where they went from after the Springtown game to now, you know, we're hoping the same thing for us. Hey, we got beat. Not the end of the world. It sucks. But how are we going to respond? And the boys responded well and had a great week of practice and went out there and played a good Bridgeport, you know, team and had the senior night and all that, you know, and it's an emotional night. You know, seniors' last game ever on the Brock Eagle football field. A lot of them that have been playing there since Pee Wee football, you know. So I was proud of them, you know, for bouncing back the way they did, proud of them keeping their, you know, emotions in check and all that. So it was a good game going into the playoffs.
Well, let's go ahead and talk about the playoffs. Your first round matchup is against Godley tomorrow night, Friday, Burleson Stadium. When you look at the film, what are your thoughts on Godley?
A very good team, very physical, man, execute well. Got a really good quarterback, running back, receivers, big O-line, big D-line. Got two big linebackers that sitting there in the middle. They're a very, very solid football team. And, you know, they're a type of team, you got to get out there and you got to get in the trenches with them. You got to go out there and you got to play hard. You got to play tough because they're going to play tough, you know, play in and play out. You know, we've scrimmaged them the last couple of years, so we're kind of familiar with them. You know, with the kids. Of course, Coach Dungeon being there now is a different coach, but
yeah,
you know, we're familiar with the kids and they're familiar with us. So it's going to be a really good football game.
Well, and, you know, and this is a team, you know, you might look and say, oh, well, they're 6-4, but as you know, their 4 losses are to all 4 playoff teams, Alvarado, Stephenville, and they were very close against Glen Rose and Benbrook. So that record can fool you when you look at a team like this.
Oh, man. Alvarado, Stephenville, Glen Rose are all excellent teams. And Benbrook, they're 9-1, the best years they've had in a long time. They're an excellent football team. You know, it's not like they've lost to, you know, some bad teams. So they're a good team, and we're going to have to go out there and put our best foot forward if we're going to go out there and win this football game.
All right, let's kind of talk about it because, you know, we weren't able to do a show for a couple weeks, but you kind of emphasized on how y'all felt coming out of Graham and stuff. Since that game, what has the atmosphere been around the kids? Have they understood what happened in Graham and, hey, let's lunch pellet and let's figure it out and let's get better?
Absolutely. It's been 2 weeks of probably the most physical practices that we've had, you know, and we always have pretty physical practices, but, you know, we had to go answer the bell and we got to pick ourselves up and go back to work and look to the boys and said, all right, how do you guys want this season to end? How do you want it to continue? How do you want to be remembered? What's your legacy going to be? You know, right now we're, you know, sitting at 9-1, which hundreds and hundreds of teams would love to be. All right. So let's be thankful about that. But now, where do we want to go from here? You know, and the answer is, you know, we want to go win a state championship, and you got to do it 1 week at a time. But our film study's been better. Our practices have been sharper. They've been more physical. So, you know, that's the way we got to play. We got to go play with an edge. We got to go play razor sharp, fast, and play like these warriors that are coming out, not only just to go win a football game, but to go out and totally dominate.
During when the playoff starts, is your week basically the same? Do y'all change anything up, or do y'all just treat this like, hey, this is just week 12 of the season?
It's week 12 of the season. We keep on rolling on. You know, well, I'm a stickler for consistency, and the boys they don't like it when we change up a lot of stuff. So we stay pretty consistent with our practice and how we practice. with our schedules, film schedules, weight schedules, and all that. So it's just week 12 of the season. Now, we definitely make sure, being this deep into the season, there's a lot more recovery work that they do. I try to emphasize a lot more, going to cryo, getting ice baths, make sure they take care of their bodies, eating well, sleeping well, because got to be feeling good. You need to get back to 100%. So, we're a lot more conscious on that, being this late in the season.
Well, and one thing about this, and as a coach, this, and I don't think fans understand this, making the playoffs isn't just about now. It helps laying that foundation of the future, because not only does varsity get to practice, everybody gets to practice, and the more practices for the young guys, the better.
Heck yeah, man. That's the greatest thing in the world. And, it's part of that, rite of passage that these young guys do. They don't have a game to go look forward to on Thursday night. All they got to do is look forward to is going out and being the best scout team. And I tell these guys every week, just because you're running scout team doesn't mean that you won't have a chance to jump in there on Friday night. If you come out here during scout team and you're whipping tail and doing all the things that need to be done, that an opportunity comes up, I'll call your name just as fast as I will any of these other guys. So these guys come out here, they got a lot of pride in themselves when they come out here and run scout team. They want to give the best look they can, and it's hard to simulate another varsity football team. But we're lucky. We got a lot of guys that come out here, and, man, they lay it on the line, and they practice hard, and they take a lot of pride in doing a good job for the varsity.
Here at L4 Media, we talk high school football, 4A, 3A, and 2A in Texas. We talk East Texas sports. We talk NFL, guy talk, movie and booze. We also talk wrestling and so much more. And you can see it all on our YouTube channel at L4 Media Company. Like and subscribe. Terry Bennett back here. As always, we want to thank the head coach, Mathis, for joining us. I heard some of y'all were a little angry with what I said on our show, Sideline to Sideline, which, by the way, you can hear and watch each and every week. You can hear it, S2SGrantandTerry.com. That's the audio version. We talk 4A, 3A, and 2A football. Right now, those are in separate shows. As the playoffs get smaller and smaller, eventually we convert that over into one big show. Also, we'll be having our state championship watching parties like we did last year, which was an absolute blast. Had so much fun doing that. Did not know how that would work, and we had so much fun doing it, so we're going to do that again this year. But what I said was Brock has a big game problem, and they do. And it's not a knock. Grant and I, we're not here to try to run teams down or anything. In fact, we're really cognizant of what we say. We never want to make it seem personal or anything like that. I was just making an observation, and I think it's a true observation. And yeah, that doesn't mean they haven't won big games, but they still have a big game problem, and they've got to figure it out. And that's the growth of a program and a football team. And yes, even Brock, as great as Brock is, you're always growing, you're always evolving. And by the way, I literally said the same thing about the Gilmer Buckeyes last year, and look where they ended up. And they've kind of been like Brock as well, where they kept, getting to the state championship and losing, or getting to the region finals, or the state semifinals and losing, because they had kind of developed a big game problem. And they worked through it and got through it. And it's not like Brock can't do the same thing. And I kind of expect Brock to do the same thing. So please, just understand where that came from. Anyway, I do appreciate that. And if you want to tell me to me about how you feel about that, simply email me, Terry at S2SSport.com. I love getting emails like that. We can debate and all that. And as long as you keep it fun, I'll keep it fun, because that's what all this is, dude. This is just for fun, man. You got to enjoy this. It's the playoffs. Enjoy the playoffs. Whether you are the prohibitive favorite or whether you're just happy to be there, it's extra football. That's all that matters. Be safe going to the games this week, and we'll talk next week right here on the Brock Eagle Football Show on S2S Sports, part of L4 Media.